What's the word, everybody? Welcome to a new edition of the By the Horns podcast presented by Toyota. Know that Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand, so find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. Cam Smith back with my man Drew Stevens of the Bigs. The connection is here, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that we are still in the United Center, as we should be. It feels like everybody should stay in the United Center just because of how wild that Bulls game was tonight against the Los Angeles Lakers. Game-winning 3 by Josh Giddey, who finished his night with a triple-double just beyond half court. Drew, we can unpack this on so many different levels in so many different ways. But this is one of those nights where, one, it's still March. You know, as we record this podcast, we all know about March Madness. It is March 27th, the Sweet 16, the NCAA tournament has been going on today. More madness inside the United Center as opposed to compared to what we've seen in the NCAA tournament. But just one of those nights where you remember where you were when this happened. And if you're in this arena, this is going to stick with you for a very long time because not only what happened, but who it happened against. And this is LeBron, this is Luka. The Bulls continue to stack another win, and it's Josh Giddey with a 46-foot three-point shot just beyond half court to give the Bulls another win. They have won 9 of their last 11 games, Drew. Let's just go ahead and go here. Josh Giddey has caught a lot of heat this season. Let's just be real about that. And some of it has been to the level of deserving because he didn't put the forth the effort defensively. It just wasn't there. The shooting numbers weren't there. And he would even admit that to himself and admit that to the media as he has before. His turnovers were increasing, and you start to question, would he be the guy moving forward for this franchise that was rooted and is rooted in young players moving this franchise forward? But then a change happened. After the All-Star break, definitely moving past the trade deadline, we saw a different Josh Giddey and what he's been able to be for this Bulls team. And tonight, I don't want to say it's been a culmination of since the All-Star break, but more so of him adding to what we've seen. And let's just be honest, proving of what he has been for this Bulls team, and that's been a guy that has been reliable, scoring the basketball, shooting the basketball, rebounding the basketball, and passing the basketball.
I mean, simply put, Josh Giddey is making himself a lot of money. We all know that he's going into restricted free agency this summer. We know, the drawbacks that you just spoke of that we saw of his game before the All-Star break, before Zach LaVine was traded away to Sacramento. And now we've seen a more engaged Josh Giddey, a more determined Josh Giddey, one who wants to get downhill and try to score in the paint by seemingly any means necessary when he is driving and using his shoulder to knock defenders off balance, trying to get to the free throw line. It was not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination on either side for any player on either team. Josh Giddey had 7 turnovers, 7 of the Bulls, 15 turnovers. He had an errant shot moments before he hit that game winner, but he had the wherewithal to know clock score, to be looking for the ball from Patrick Williams. He had the heads-up defensive play on a gaff by LeBron James on an inbounds pass, and he sank a 46-foot game winner in LeBron James's face. Like, can't write a better story for Josh Giddey. It was an incredible night for this Bulls team. The United Center was going wild. There were a lot of Lakers fans or LeBron James fans or Luka Doncic fans. I don't know how you want to categorize them, but it was loud in there. It was very loud in there. The craziest part to me, Cam, is, do you want to know how many points the Bulls scored in the third quarter?
How many, Drew?
In the entirety of the third quarter, the Bulls scored 17 points. From about maybe the 5:20 mark in the fourth quarter until the end of the game, they scored 27. A wild game. A wild game. And I know a lot of the criticism of this month has been, well, the Bulls haven't really played anybody.
Right.
The teams that they beat who were above 500 had sat out some of their stars. you have to give them credit now. They've beaten the Lakers twice in the span of 5 or 6 days.
Yep.
They had LeBron James. They had Luka Doncic. And I think we can easily call these the 2 signature wins of the season for this Bulls team, whether you like it or not, whether you wanted them to tank or not. These guys are playing for each other. They're playing hard. They're obviously not giving up. They continue to fight even when the chips seem to be way down. So you have to give them credit for that. They moved to within a game and a half of the Orlando Magic and 8th place in the Eastern Conference. So they still have some headway that they can make here with 9 games left in the regular season.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to forget about my own kind of opinions on what this thing should be or how it should be shaped moving forward. Just kind of focus in on the moment. I think they are going to make the playoffs. That's just my own personal opinion. The way that they've been playing.
Playoffs? We talking top final 8.
We're talking top 8. We're talking about
okay.
I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think
I don't want people to get confused with my tone and me questioning Drew if he meant playoffs or play in, but more so that there's light within that because the way this team is playing and how they're shooting the basketball and just how they're playing as a team, you can really see them getting the AC. And that's no cap. That's not because we're doing the By the Horns podcast and we're focused on the Chicago Bulls and we're inside the United Center. It's legit. So if you have not been watching these games and not seeing how this team is gelled, then you can just miss me with anything that you're throwing out in terms of like, oh, they won't be able to even get out of the first playing game. Well, you need to watch more Bulls basketball because this team has been a different team, especially as we mentioned before or after the trade deadline and just how they gelled and the cohesion is there, how they're moving the basketball. So it's legit that they could be the AC. Now, the reward of that is that you're going to get the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so that'll be a very strong test for that Bulls team. They get to that spot. Drew, you touched on a number of different things when it came to just what we saw tonight, and especially with Josh Giddey. Let me just throw out the stat line for everybody that wants to know numbers-wise if you haven't looked it up for the Bulls. So 25 points, 39 minutes, 25 points, 14 rebounds, 11 assists. Drew, you mentioned the 7 turnovers, and even Giddy, we spoke to him in the media scrum after, and he said that, his turnovers, obviously, he has to take better care of the basketball. But still, this is a guy, when you look at his shooting splits and what he shot from the field, 8 of 19 from the floor, 4 of 9 from 3, and a couple of steals as well. And he just understands now how to – and I say that he didn't understand this before, but it feels like with his new team, and it took him a little while just to get comfortable out there and learning guys and understanding where he can pick his spots. But now it feels like he understands where he can get his points within this ball game. And he really started from the jump. I mean, that first quarter, he was already flirting with a triple-double. Like, that's how great he was playing. And really, when you look at the first half of what he was able to do, rebounding the basketball, pushing in transition, either electing to go score at the rim or passing the guys and putting them into position to score the basketball themselves. And he made a point to say that he's tried to do away with that in-the-lane floater that he relies on a little too much instead of just using his 6'8" size and height and getting to the rim and scoring. But you're seeing him, again, finding ways where he understands how to get his buckets, especially when the ball is rotated around the perimeter and he steps into a shot and knocks him down.
Yeah, man, he looks like a guy who kind of took a second to look at himself and what areas he could really try to improve on. Not sure if you mentioned it, but he was 5 of 9 from the free throw line. Him and Coby White have made a concerted effort to try to get there. Coby didn't make it there as many times tonight, but Josh is, you have to give him credit for the improvements that he's made, the way that he's played of late. Now that he's kind of higher up on the food chain with this team, now that Zach is gone, he threw some absolutely gorgeous passes. We talked about his 7 turnovers tonight, but he threw some gorgeous passes, man. Sideline out of bounds plays. He threw a gorgeous bounce pass to Kevin Huerter, who it looked like he didn't quite know where he was when he caught it and kind of threw up a errant shot. But that's kind of what we've come to know Josh for is, being a wizard of sorts with the basketball, not being afraid to try to fit passes into tight windows or throw passes that other guys wouldn't make. And that's where you kind of get into a danger zone. And you got to kind of find that nice balance. Sometimes he has it, sometimes he doesn't. But you have to respect what he's been able to do. And, it's funny, in the post-game locker room while we were talking to Josh, he was cradling the game ball. So it was a big deal. Guys in there were, as you can imagine, on cloud nine. Coby White was trying to reel 𝗦𝗶𝗶 in a little bit and just say, okay, we got to move on to the next game. And I thought I heard Mata say something to the effect of, I'm going to keep talking about this game the rest of the night. So it's just everybody is feeling the just craziness of the night, whether it be you and I, fans in the stadium, the players themselves. Billy Donovan talked about it after the game. It's just one of those games that, like you said earlier, you're going to remember it. Of course, the United Center was rocking already just because LeBron James is here and Luka Doncic is here, and the Bulls have been playing the way that they've been playing recently. So just a lot of energy. Had that feeling of two rival high schools going at it on a Friday night in Chicago, man. That's what it felt like to me, man. The energy was kind of through the roof a lot throughout that ball game tonight.
Yeah, it had everybody's attention. And now it has the entire NBA's attention when you have a walk-off game winner like that from Josh Giddey. And it's one thing to put yourself on the mark on the national media landscape with this Bulls team of how they handled the Lakers, putting up 146 points, and Josh Giddey almost putting up a quadruple double. Yes, you heard me right, a quadruple double. And if this is new news to you, again, you need to watch more Bulls games because this team is exciting to watch. But that put the Bulls on a national basketball media landscape of like, okay, what's going on in Chicago? But we've been covering this team, Drew, and we've seen them turn things around. Just the effort is there on the defensive end. The perseverance is there. The resiliency is there. The rotations are better on the defensive end. You have guys like Coby has continued to go on this streak of 20 or more points. It seems like forever now, right? So he's well into the double digits with that streak. Josh Giddey playing great basketball. Nikola Vucevic having his moments as well. 𝗦𝗶𝗶. So many people. Kevin Huerter. You go down the line within this rotation for Billy Donovan. Everybody is being a star in their role. Dalen Terry is coming off that 6-game road trip on the West Coast and playing against Western Conference team, finishing going 10 of 16 from three. Julian Phillips had his moments in the West Coast on the West Coast swing as well. So you have a lot of guys feeling comfortable in the minutes that they're getting and really putting forth the effort and production on both ends of the floor to put this team in a position to try and snatch the 8 seed away from the Orlando Magic. Now, one thing about Orlando, the schedule is really soft, so they're not going to face anybody that's going to give them a true challenge. And I say that respectfully in some ways because they have one of the weakest remaining strength of schedules left in the NBA with about 9 or 8 games left, depending on what team you're discussing. But again, this Bulls team has continued to show that they are for real when it comes to being a team that could open up some eyes and get that 8 seed in the playoffs. And mentioning the greatness of Josh Giddey, but Coby White, he has really stepped into his Bruce Leroy glow. And I mentioned that with the tweet that I put out earlier today for the latest episode of By the Horns. But as we record this new episode of By the Horns, as a leader, as a scorer, he's been Bruce Leroy. He has the orange glow over his body. And I'm not saying a particular person is show enough, and maybe it's just the obstacle can be show enough. It doesn't have to be a name or a team or something like that. But Coby White caught the fist that was going to his face and started to crumble that fist, and he saw that orange glow go over his body because he's a dude that understands that this is his team. And it really is his team. And he stepped into that very gracefully. He stepped into it humbly, and he's been able to do it consistently, which is the most important thing when you talk about the NBA. It's great to have a night or two of putting up 35 or 30, whatever it is. But it's another thing to do it consistently with his run of 20 or more points that he's put up. So shout out to Coby White. And let me correct myself because I'm serious when I say this. And when you bring out the seriousness of this, Drew, you know this. We were raised a certain way. You get the full government name. So shout out to Alec Jacoby White for being a dog out there.
There you go. And great minds think alike because you sent out a tweet referencing The Last Dragon. I did the same thing a couple nights ago in reference to Coby, and just the way that he's playing, he's like absorbed seemingly everything he could have learned from DeMar, he could have learned from Zach, whatever he's currently learning from anybody else on the team, his off-season workouts, like it's just all coming together. And he's playing as if he feels like he can't be denied. And I say that with respect to how he's putting his head down and just getting to the basket, trying to draw fouls at any cost. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been fun to watch from his perspective, especially with the way this Bulls team has played lately. You know, we've kind of grown up with Coby. We've seen him take on so many different roles, be tasked with different responsibilities, play on a short leash, come off the bench, you know, be the third or fourth man in the totem pole in terms of scoring. We saw him have a tough time in the playoffs, have a tough game in one of those play-in games against Miami down in Miami. And then we've also seen him be a most improved player runner-up last year. We've seen him take a jump in his game, in this small sample size of games that we've seen, that I personally didn't know if he would be able to make that type of jump. Like I thought what we saw from him last year would be the kind of the biggest thing or the biggest jump he would be able to make. But he's taking it up, you know, a whole nother notch now that he is the number one scorer on this team, and it's been a pleasure to watch. And they need him to continue doing that. I don't know how many more games he's going to add to this streak that he has, but the Bulls need him to score 20 or more a night. He came into the fourth quarter stuck on 11 points, ended up making 5 or 6 shots in that fourth quarter, scored 15 points if I'm not mistaken. So he's seizing the moment, he's making the most of it, and this Bulls team is better for it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You talk about what he was able to do to just raise his point total, but he finished with 26, second leading scorer in the game behind Austin Reeves, who dropped 30. But it's the 9 assists, too. Like, look at that stat line. The 9 assists stand out for Coby White. Only 2 turnovers with those 9 assists. So he's putting it together all together. And that's why when you look at Coby and his production, it's not just the scoring. It's how he's creating for others as well. It's what he's doing on the defensive end. It's what he's doing in terms of finding his spots to rebound the basketball and how he's shooting the basketball. Like, we're going to go back to that in scoring because that's just who Coby White is. But he's showing other parts of his game where he can get the basketball in his hands. He can create offense. You can run the offense through him. And it's not just a guy that's coming off screens, catching, shooting. We've seen the evolution of Coby when it comes to his ball handling, how he's so patient off that ball screen and getting guys on his hip, on his backside, and really just having that patience that we see, that patience, that probe when he's snaking those ball screens and getting in the lane and reminding people that, I'm 6'5", dog. Like, I'm not 6'3". I'm not putting 6'5" on the roster and lying to you. No, I'm a full 6'5", and you will feel this strength when I get to the rim and score over you. Like, damn, Coby is 6'5". I can't do anything with him.
He's looked like a running back, like this last stretch of games. Like you said.
When he splits through, and he did that a few times tonight against the Lakers where you described him as just not being denied. Those are the moments where Coby just, like, put his head down, split through defenders because he didn't want to be denied when the Bulls needed a basket. And it wasn't him settling for 3. It's him putting his head down, in control, not uncontrolled, and getting to the rim and finishing.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun to watch. Yeah. You know, we knew Coby as a guy who was really quick, but kind of stuck going north and south all the time. Now he's at it like, you know, stop and starts. These hesitations, like you said, he paces himself better. Change of pace, deceleration steps, Euro steps, using his strength, his upper body strength to knock guys off position, knock guys off balance, and try to finish through them or around them. It's Jalen Brunson-esque. If I can compare him to another small guard, but that's kind of what I've seen from Coby lately, and a lot of that has to do with how much more focus he's put into getting downhill, getting to the rim, trying to finish at the rim, and not just living and dying by the three-pointer. And that makes his shot that much more dangerous when guys have to kind of anticipate him beating them off the dribble. It's fantastic for him, man. And this team, like we talked about, is going to benefit from it. If the Hawks, if the Magic, if they don't want, the play-in, the Bulls will take it from them.
Yeah,
the Bulls are going to take it from them.
Yeah, for sure. And just to kind of give the Hooper perspective on it, it's always tough to play against a shooter, defend a shooter, especially when they're running off screens. It's even tougher to play against a shooter that can drive the basketball and get to the rim. It's another level of toughness as a defender to play against a guy that can shoot, that can drive to the rim and finish at the rim, but then also has size. And Coby has all three of those things. And at the end of the day, nobody's trying to deal with somebody that's putting that shoulder into that rib cage every single time. Like, you're going to start to give some resistance. So now, not only when the ball is reversed and it's one of those swing situations and the defense is rotating, I have to make sure I close out tight on you. But also at the same time, Coby can put it on the deck. And now as a defender, I'm either on your side or on your hip, and I'm in no man's land. I can't do anything with you now. If I'm on your side, Coby's going to take that strength and take that contact and still go up and finish. And so that's the dilemma that a lot of defenses have had in trying to check Coby White. He's tapped into his Bruce Leroy globe. He has the size. He has the shooting ability. He has the finishing ability at the rim to really make plays for himself. And then, as we saw tonight again, has the ability to find others with those 9 assists, only 2 turnovers. So I'll let you do the math for those listening, wherever you get your pods, also watching on the CHSN YouTube page, of what that assist to turnover ratio was tonight. But you have Kevin Huerter stepping up, having a big game. He had 21 points, all 5 starters in double-digit scoring. You had 6 players in that Bulls rotation with double digits. Patrick Williams was the 6th, 11 points off the bench for him. He made that big 3 in the corner to really change things around. And then that's just when all hell broke loose. And that's what I mentioned earlier with this Bulls team, how now it's more of a national story, because looking at the Twitter streets or the X streets, whatever you want to call them, the social media streets, the NBA put out the video of the wild buzzer beater. They then quote tweeted that post with the play-by-play breakdown of the final 10 seconds. So go to the NBA's X Twitter page, whatever you call it. Just call it Twitter, because I'm not going to do this whole thing, man. Just go to their Twitter page, look at the quote tweet, and they have it all broken down. But then also go to the CHSN page and look at our dope digital team. We got so many just behind-the-scenes moments of photos and videos, and putting that out on our social media pages, so on Instagram and also on Twitter, because our team is for sure A1. Elite of the elite. Shout out to 𝗂𝗏, who's doing the producing of all the podcasts that we have on CHSN. And he's trying to stay awake right now because my man has been working. Man needs a vacation, but shout out to 𝗂𝗏. But our team is super dope, so check out that content as well. But this is becoming more of a national story. And I feel bad for who the Lakers play the next game, because they're coming into that ball game pissed off. Yes, it was the second night of a back-to-back for them. Played the Indiana Pacers last night, an Indiana Pacers team that was rolling, had won 5 straight. 4 of those games were 4 straight at home where they won. Lakers got the tip in. Indiana actually doubled up and got a win tonight against the Washington Wizards. 162 points, which is insane, 162 to 109. Washington is like, they should be relegated to the G League or something like that, because that's disgusting stuff that they're doing. But this is a Lakers team that wanted to get their lick back. And at times in this ballgame, Drew, they did get their lick back. 37 points in the third quarter. They led by as many as 18 in this ball game. But to something that we touched on earlier, and you pointed this out, this Bulls team and their resiliency, they have a perseverance. They have a spirit about themselves that is not going to lay down and die. Like, I was passing Joe Cowley kind of in the fourth quarter, and I'm like, Joe, this team does not give up. He was like, yeah, man, this team does not give up. They keep going after it. And it's refreshing to see. It's refreshing to see a basketball team share the ball, play with each other in terms of on the court, making the right plays for each other, and put themselves in position, encouraging each other when times are tough. Because I remember vividly Josh Giddey, when plays wouldn't go the Bulls' way or the Lakers would make a big shot, he's encouraging guys. Not to say that Giddy was the only one doing that. Everyone on the bench, from Javon Carter to Taylor Horton-Tucker to the Bulls coaching staff to even Coby White on the court and everyone else on the court, just encouraging each other, trying to pick guys up to say this game was not over. And it wasn't over, because they still continued to fight until the final seconds. Literally, with Josh Giddey making that 46-foot three-point shot, Drew.
Yeah, it's this Bulls team, the players, the coaches, they are going to try to win games. They're going to do whatever they can do to win these games. They, again, are playing for each other. They are playing for something more meaningful to them than just these regular season games. They're trying to, get up to that 8th play-in spot. They're trying to get into the postseason. Guys are playing for contracts. Guys are playing for minutes. Like this, to a certain portion of the fan base, we talked about it. There was a certain way that they wanted this team or this franchise to go about their business this season. But that's not going to happen. We're way too deep into it now to be worried about that. So, again, I think it's just best to kind of focus on what this team is right now. Say what you want about the month that it is, who they haven't played, who's not been in the lineup against the 500 teams that they have played. You got to chalk it up to the way this team is playing, the style of play that they're playing with, their willingness to adapt to the style that they have. They credit themselves on being one of, if not the most well-conditioned team in the league. They're trying to wear teams down. They're trying to get to the paint at a relentless pace. They're knocking down threes. Of course, there has to be a little bit of, I guess you can call some Uncle Mo, some momentum or maybe a little bit of luck involved when a game like tonight when the Lakers have like a 99% chance of winning down there in the late stages of that game. But you never know what's going to happen. And we saw that tonight. And, I think that this is now the signature win of the season because of the way that it went down with Josh Giddey nailing a 46-foot game winner in LeBron James's face. Like, that's still can't believe that one, man. That's crazy. Of all the flack that he gets for not being able to knock down contested jump shots or contested threes, he just knocked down a half quarter, man. It's insane. It really is insane.
Helped him finish 4 of 9 from 3. You do the math out there, that's over 40%. But yeah, Josh Giddey's having a ball game, having a great run. Coby White, this entire Bulls team is for sure moving forward. Let me correct myself, Drew, too, because I said the Lakers had 37 points in that third quarter, actually 32. So they had 32, the Bulls had 17. So again, you can do more math on that for yourself there. 15 points that the Bulls were outscored by with this Lakers team in the third quarter. But again, they just never said die. I mean, the believability that this team has within each other and as a unit, it's refreshing to watch, really refreshing to watch. And so we'll be back again with this Bulls team on Saturday, back at the 𝗬𝗎 against the Dallas Mavericks. We'll see how that game plays out. Anthony Davis possibly back at the crib, back on the court for the Dallas Mavericks, so that'll be interesting from that standpoint. And then if you look at the remaining schedule for this Bulls team, 9 games left. They're going to go on the road against Oklahoma City. But then it gets a little sweet on that schedule. So you're looking at the Toronto Raptors, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Charlotte Hornets. Level of play raises when you go to Cleveland and face them again for the final time this regular season. But you're going to finish out against Miami, against Washington, and on the road against the Philadelphia 76ers. So Orlando, Atlanta, y'all can mess around if you want to. This Bulls team is not messing around. So they are definitely trying to target that 7th spot and get themselves another home play-in game. But this time, if they win it as a 7 seed, then there you go. They're in the playoffs for that 7th spot to face off against the Boston Celtics, who are the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. So that will do it for this edition of the By the Horns podcast presented by Toyota. Know that Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand. So find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. For my man Drew Stevens of the Bigs, I'm Cam Smith. It's time for us to get out of the United Center as much as we want to stay, especially after a game like this with Bulls. Josh Giddey game winning 3 to give the Bulls a 119-117 win. Season sweep of the Lakers. But we got to get home. We got to get some rest, man. We got families to take care of because we got to make sure that we get rested to give you some more great content for the By the Horns podcast on the Chicago Sports Network. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.